Floyd Nation is bringing their incredible show to the Bergen PAC in Englewood this Friday night. And there's the sign right there. Brendon, McDonnell, and Jason Collins from Floyd Nation. Good morning and welcome to All Mixed Up in WDHA.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And what I was referencing for DHA listeners who are watching this on video is Jason has this beautiful logo behind him on the wall. That is great.
Yeah, this was from our show poster from our Kalamazoo in the at the State Theater in Michigan from April of this year.
And this kind of jumps ahead to something that I wanted to ask you about. But so much of Pink Floyd's presentation, if you will, was visual, whether it was the album covers or the live show. How important is that to Floyd Nation, Jason?
It's very important. It's very important. The visuals, you know, if you don't have the music side of it, you don't have anything. But the visuals have to coincide, and it has to have that mesh and that flow, you know. So we have a new lighting director that has been with us, Carter. What, a couple months now, Brendon?
Yeah, that's right. We've spent a lot of time over the last several months revamping Floyd Nation's light show, and we're really proud of what's to come.
I miss all of the changes in technology. I miss the album covers the most. Even when it went to CD, it wasn't the same. Being able to look at that cover as you were listening to whatever music it was, and it was something special about Pink Floyd's album covers, no question, especially, you know, moving from Dark Side forward. The album covers were as much a part of the experience as the music in a lot of cases.
Yes. Yeah. The album covers, I think my favorite album cover that they have is Wish You Were Here, which, you know, we're coming into in 2025. It's the 50th anniversary of, and it's one of the iconic Floyd albums for me.
Listening to their music, and in fact, I just went back and I listened to Lucifer Sam for the first time in forever, and I'm thinking, this is a surf song. And then just a couple of years later, here they are, Brendon, with Dark Side of the Moon, which to my ears still sounds sonically as amazing 50 plus years later as it did in the early 1970s when it was released.
Yeah, that's true. You know, Pink Floyd, you know, bringing in Alan Parsons to help with that project really was an amazing thing. You know, I think without his input, Dark Side would sound very different. Pink Floyd also had a lot of years to really refine that material on the road. And I think it was just lightning in a bottle, creative inspiration, you know, for that album.
And I wonder what it must have been like to try to recreate that sound on the road, given the technology of the day in the early 70s. Everybody knows that the Beatles had stopped touring because what they were doing sonically in the studio, they just could not replicate at the time.
And it's amazing that, you know, we have some really great technology these days, and we make a lot of use of that technology to recreate that sound. You know, another thing that I'd like to point out that we do, Floyd Nation pays really close attention to the tempos of the music. And there's a natural ebb and flow in Pink Floyd music as these guys are kind of vibing off of each other. And we try to capture that ebb and flow. And
Jason,
so
let me ask you, you were talking about tempo. Let me ask you, Jason, how difficult is it to play a song in the signature like Money, which is what starts off 7/4 and then goes to 4/4?
If you have the right drummer, it's not difficult at all. And
there's the key.
Yes. You know, the drummer and the bassist are the backbone of a band. Everyone just ends up listening to the bassist.
Yeah.
But as far as difficulty, it's not, for me, it wasn't difficult because of the groove. You know, it's just how my brain works.
When you're working on material, Jason, I know Roger Waters played bass on some songs, as did David Gilmour. Whose parts are more difficult to replicate?
The Gilmour parts. Gilmour is the better player. He's the more musical player. In my opinion, you know, when you think of Pink Floyd, Gilmour is the feel and the emotion, and Roger is the angst. And, you know, you bring that two together, that's what makes them special, and also what drives them apart.
Brendon, as a guitar player, I long thought that what Gilmour's greatest strength was what he didn't play. He never seemed to overplay anything. And the beauty of a solo like Comfortably Numb all these years later, to me, and that's my favorite Pink Floyd song because of that solo, but it's really what David left out.
Absolutely. It's an expression of minimalism and feeling every single note. Taking your time to, let the vibrato just come out and ooze. And you're exactly right. Making sure that you're not playing too many notes. And to this day, I'll go back to the recordings and I'll listen carefully. I'll meditate on them and to try to that negative space. How can I make this simpler? But in so doing, make it more like Pink Floyd and David Gilmour.
And how difficult is it to replicate Gilmour's sound?
That's an ongoing process. Gilmour, he has a quote in saying that the equipment that he uses, anybody could walk into any music store and pick it up off the shelf. And that's true. Very simple signal chain, very simple equipment. It's what you do with it.
Some years ago, I was in a band. We were playing at the Bottom Line. We were opening up for Carl Perkins, and Eric Clapton is in the audience. And Clapton did not have a guitar with him that night, but he ended up playing my guitar through my amp. I had minimal equipment. It was basically one pedal. And I'm watching him, Brendon, play, and I'm looking at him going, oh, so that's what that instrument is supposed to sound like. It was a matter of one player. It had nothing to do with the signal chain, the guitar, the amp. It was all in the player.
Yeah. He sounded like himself, I'm sure.
Yes.
And I'm sure the same can be said for David Gilmour. And Floyd Nation, really, we spend a lot of time trying to replicate the same signal pass, the same simplicity, and we try to put ourselves, if Pink Floyd was playing on stage with us right now, what would they be doing? Let's try to channel that with respect.
Changes in technology have long amazed me. And Jason and Brendon, and for listeners who are watching this on video, I'm holding up a Liverpool Sans amp. It's just a small pedal. It's slightly bigger than a pack of cigarettes, if you will. And the amount of sounds that I can get out of this thing that will replicate a Vox AC30, whether it's Brian May or Tom Petty or Roger McGuinn, whatever, George Harrison, the amount that you can do with that. Yet you guys still use a lot of analog equipment. What's the balance? And Jason, I'll start with you first. What's the balance between analog and digital for you?
For me, the balance is having the amp and cabinet on stage to push the feeling of the bass across. It adds to the vibe for everyone to feel. And, Gilmour is famous for saying, it's got to be loud enough to where you can sit back into the music and almost have like your amp support you as you're playing. Brendon is a huge proponent for that as well.
Brendon, same question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took the words right out of my mouth. I believe that in order to replicate Pink Floyd's music, there has to be volume and there has to be purity of tone. And these days, like you pointed out, you can find a box that replicates just about anything. Mm-hmm. But the thing is when you turn it up loud, it's got to fill the room. It's got, you have to feel it in your body. And so, yeah, we have a lot of really great technology on stage. Floyd Nation uses the best of the best when it comes to technology, but we're also using real amplifiers and we're also using period proper effects pedals, to make sure just that little push over the edge to bring that authenticity to the music. Floyd Nation's all about it.
Jason, what's your favorite Pink Floyd record?
Oh, favorite, so it's got to be Wish You Were Here. And the very first time I heard it, it was 13. I was on the east coast of Florida at my grandfather's house. And I found this kid, he was in the neighborhood. We're in his house listening to Have a Cigar on an 8-track that he had plugged into a power source and onto some crappy speakers. I knew in that moment that this is an important song and that I'm supposed to know this and that there's something in the future that's going to happen. And 30 years later, I'm playing that song on stage.
Brendon, same question for you. Favorite Pink Floyd album?
That's going to have to be Animals for me. That's an easy one. I was turned on to Animals during high school. I was a Led Zeppelin nut at that point. I was sure I was going to be in a Led Zeppelin tribute band at some point. Somebody turned me on to Animals, and the rest is history. That the organics and the length of songs, I really respond well to that. I love long songs, lots of guitar solos, lots of feel.
You can check out all things Floyd Nation on their website, floydnation.live. And you can also get all the information on this Friday's show, Floyd Nation coming to the Bergen PAC in Englewood Friday, October 4th, bergenpac.org. Brendon, McDonnell, and Jason Collins, thank you so much for your time this morning here on WDHA. Have a great show Friday night.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.